I started a journey a long time ago. That journey was to go all the way across America and talk to people about something that had been bothering me ever since I was a child. I grew up without my father. I grew up pretty much without a father figure. And I started wondering how these things affected me. I've heard many women say that, well, a child doesn't really need a man as long as he or she has a mother. And then I watched the people around my community who grew up just like me, fatherless, without guidance from a male. And I start thinking, how have we ended up? In 2013, I started this journey. And right now, I look back over that time, and I can say that it is a profound effect on children as well as society when men are taken from the home. Not only that, but when men are villainized by the media, by women, and by men themselves. You have what we have today, which is a fatherless America. You know any gangbangers?
Oh, yeah, I know quite a few of them.
How many of you know got strong dads in their life, took them to basketball practice, baseball practice?
Not many, no.
Somebody growing up without a father, because I myself grew without one. And I just told him basically how I wish that I had a father figure that I could turn to. And maybe if I did have a father, I wouldn't have gotten into all the trouble that I went through in my life.
If you had to think about the gangs and the amount of young black men in these gangs, if you had to guess, how many of those young black men do you think had stable fathers in their homes?
Maybe 10, 15%.
Why do you think it's so low?
Because dudes just out here making babies and leaving, or they in jail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they get locked up. Majority of the folks you see walking kids to school are women. Very few fathers.
Do you think if there were more fathers in these young boys' lives that they probably would be doing better and less gang activity?
That's a thought, maybe.
Brother said he see maybe 10% fathers. How would you feel about that figure?
Maybe 10% what?
Fathers that in the lives of the kids.
I think 10 is a stretch.
If you want to find out the effects of fatherlessness, I'd say go to any school around the United States. Look at how many times the kids are getting in trouble and things like that, and then look at the parent ratio. I guarantee you there is a correlation. What do you think?
The impact of fatherless homes it has on children. I mean, of course, across the board, it's awful. Especially in an African American community, I think it's quite devastating. What you don't have is the balance in the home. You know, and it's not an original thought. I'm not the first person to say that. You know, it's hard to break the rules when your dad's there. Yeah. But someone who can teach you respect. If you don't learn to respect in your home, learn to obey the rules in your home. That's why you do step outside and break the rules. You haven't heard that firm hand. And not that your mama can't do it, but by the time I was 15, God bless her, I mean, I would never raise a hand at my mama. I thought she would break me in two, but she couldn't stop me from doing what I wanted to do either.
Do you have any children?
Yes, I do.
How many?
I have 3.
Their fathers in their lives?
Kind of, sort of, yes and no.
How do you think it's played, it's hurt them, if you think? Like, how do you think?
The same way. The girls, I have had issues with young men.
Dating, yep.
Dating. And my son has had issues with his girlfriend. So it plays out, it really does. I'm trying to break that cycle, trying to be a good example for them, you know, but it's hard.
They're actually more prone to get in a lot of trouble. And I would assume that it would be because, as we have discussed before, you and I would have assumed that it's because when you have a father, the threat of just his wrath feels different. It's like a lion versus a cat.
Exactly.
You hear a lion just roar, you're thinking, okay, there's some damage about to go down. Yeah, nobody just run away from a cat.
Now, if I was 15 and my dad was there, well, he could stop me. He could stop me from doing what he didn't want me to do. And that's the job that's vacant. The teaching of respect and boundaries, how to obey. And that's why some kids, that's not a blanket statement, some don't know how to respect authority. And that's a problem when there are laws. That's a problem. And your dad is the balance for that, generally. When he's a good dad, he is the firm wall for that. Not that your mama can't do it, but on a physical level, it becomes much more challenging for your mom to chase after you when you're 15. First of all, she can't catch you. And that's really out of her job description, to be running after a 15-year-old boy. And that's when their mothers start praying, generally. I know my mom, sorry, Mom, I'm gonna tell them. But when I was 15, man, before I found the arts, before I found acting, not that I wasn't raised well and all of that, but you got friends and you're following the path. I would leave from school on Friday. I'd come back home Sunday night. We lived in the Bronx. I'd be in Brooklyn the whole weekend.
It's one of those things where children test their mothers. We see it even when you have a family unit. That's why women have to say, don't make me call your father, because the kid is probably not taking mom seriously.
But my dad nowhere in sight. My mother can't run that fast. I don't care how superwoman she is. You understand? And it's not a deficit. That's just not her job. And she got other kids to worry about. Can be chasing after my little nappy ass, running 3 boroughs away. She relied on prayer to keep me safe. It'd be good to have a dad to be like, what happens next is you get knocked out. And I hear my buddies would tell me, my buddy Daryl tells me about his dad, Mr. Sims, God rest in peace. He's a former Korean War veteran. He passed away about 4 years ago. And his dad, he's from Detroit, and he worked for General Motors for 40 years. And I love hearing Daryl tell me about his dad. I feel like I live Mr. Sims' lessons to my buddy Daryl, just talking about his dad. I love it, because his dad was so strong, was so present. He worked a lot. And of course, like your dad works all the time, doesn't always make you happy. But the strength and the protection and the direction and just the wall he offered. Kids don't know how to respect authority. And it is because we're not there.
And we're not making too much of it simply because those are one of the aspects and the dynamics of racism, white supremacy that put us in this situation to see how we responded. Now, we can't take anything away from Mom. She stepped up to the plate, as all of the women that I've known and experienced have stepped up to the plate. Sometimes some of them going overboard trying to be the mom and the dad. But of course that particular dynamic hurts simply because when you ask the average person, what is the black family? What does it consist of? Women come from a different perspective. Some men that are successful would say, well, I turned out fine and it was just me and my mom. Do you understand what I'm saying? Not dealing with the deeper issues, and that man having a son, not knowing what to do with him.
Explain what your dad means to you. What is he?
What my father means to me is somebody who shows by example, who you learn from first, who shows you what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. He teaches you how to protect, if you got your mother and your sister in your life, how to protect the women in your life, and how to be an outstanding role model even under situations that you might not want to be in.
I just knew at some point I was angry.
that, okay, you're supposed to be my first boyfriend. You're supposed to be the one to show me how a guy is supposed to treat me. You know, you're supposed to be the one that helps guide me through, you know, life, through certain, you know, situations that a mother can't. And I think at some point, unknowingly, like I said, it just set in. And it wasn't until I think I got into my, because I remember somebody telling me that my dad was an addict. And I was like, no, I don't believe that.
Okay, so I have 3 children, all completely different, all raised by the same mother. My oldest is a heroin addict. My middle one is actually graduating early from college next year, and my youngest actually plays select ball for Under Armour. So the only difference that I could see and that I could pinpoint was when I was an addict, that first 2-3 years, how they say it is very pivotal. She was around me when I was a drug addict. I was fighting meth from 13 to 23. I was a heavy meth addict.
How old were you when you had her?
I had her at 20. And so she was there for those.
That's when you were in the deep?
Oh, deep. I was at 4 grams of meth a day. So she was exposed to that. Even though I thought that, you know, me not giving her to somebody else to raise and me being there and giving her the dinner, and it's still, even though I thought I was functioning and pulling the picture off, I wasn't. I was lacking. I was emotionally detached from it, which was the difference, I believe, in the 3. So I, in a sense, because I didn't know any better, withheld from her, whether it be love or time or what, I'm not really sure yet what. It affected her heart and her confidence. It definitely did.
Yep.
Which the other 2, I was married at the time, grew up in the house with their father, thriving because they were there during that.
See?
He was there during that time.
Daddy's girls. That's something that seems to be lost in our community. You as a pastor, how do you address the fact that a lot of little black girls don't even get a chance to grow up to be daddy's girls?
It's unfortunate because the fatherless homes really destroying our community. It's a cancer that no one really wants to talk about. We know the statistics, but unfortunately statistics don't really impress anybody. But really 75% of all African American children go to bed at night without a father in the home. And that number is 50% for Latino children, go to bed at night without a father in the home, and 25% for white children. So it's something that's affecting our whole society that needs to be addressed. It's really something that is causing unemployment to rise, and having babies out of wedlock rather, is all connected to the fatherless home.
But I truly believe that if he was there to guide me properly, if he would have been that example, I would have definitely made better decisions. But he wasn't there. And I know for a fact part of the animosity came from me feeling abandoned.
Literally, the first text I asked you was, are you on birth control? Because I wouldn't get your number if I wasn't trying to sleep with you. I don't get numbers of people that I'm just trying to talk to. I don't hold conversations with women on the phone. Women need to quit thinking that dude's trying to be their buddy. Gay men trying to be your buddy. I ain't trying to be your buddy. That ain't me. I don't have nothing to sit and talk about on a woman on the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning talking about what you doing. If it ain't true, get off.
I'm a man living in the real world. I've never asked a girl, are you on contraceptives before I poke her? Come on, that's the issue.
That's the issue.
To me, it all starts back with how we came up. Like, it goes back to dads. Like, once again, because I honestly believe if my dad was there, and as much as, because my dad now has a younger daughter who's now like 8 or 9. And he's on her. I mean, he is on her. He's on her like white on rice. Like, he is on her.
He's
like,
been a good dad.
He is a great dad to her. He's a great dad. And when we go over her house sometime and he yell at her and she just cry, and I tell her, I said, you getting stuff that I wish I had.
Does it make you a little bit? Because I know it made me jealous when my mom married my little brother's dad, and I see the way he took him to football games. Like, he did everything, and I'm like, I got none of that. Yeah. It makes you sad a little bit.
It does. It does. And I tell her, I'm like, you lucky. You are so lucky, because now you get to see it. Like, he's telling you how these guys are gonna be, and she gets both. She gets to see both sides from a good side. And I mean, she just, to me, she's a little bit luckier than we were. And we wanted the attention that she's getting now. I really did. And me and him talked like a couple of weeks back, because I don't talk to him often. But when I do, we talk on the phone for a minute. And he apologized, and he was like he was sorry. But I was like, you know what? It was too many times that I asked for your attention, and for you to tell me sorry now, I kind of don't, I'm numb to it. Like
it can't help me now.
It can't help me, because I told him, I said, I believe the things that happen in my life coming up wouldn't have happened if you was there, because I was screaming for your attention. I said, all these things I did and nothing got your attention.
I mean, all of it I know stems, just from that whole idea of feeling abandoned and having to work through some of that. And some of my insecurities even today as an adult woman, now still I'm working through some of that. So it's really interesting. And I've talked to one of my dads about it, not to both, not to my stepdad. I don't think I've ever really shared with him, my struggles, but definitely plays a huge role.
Let's just go about it. Let's go about it this way. What I'm saying is accountability.
So
the men need to have accountability, because if you have 5 kids by 5 different women, it ain't them women's fault. You knew after the first one that it was difficult for you to pay child support, and they had you in child support court. You shouldn't have had the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and 5th. But we hold men to that standard. If I was out here talking about niggas need to take care of their kids, niggas need jobs, niggas need to treat women like queens, all the women would be like, and the dudes would be like, yeah, because they wouldn't sit in and argue with me. So it's a difficult conversation for me to have with men about what they need to do, because men acquiesce to whatever you tell them. Because men have been beaten down, because most of them are raised by women, so they literally will listen to whatever a woman says. Women need to understand a black man is one of the hardest people to date, because he loved his mama so much that he don't even know how to be a man. Where was his daddy? How many of you black women have had a hard time just dating black dudes because they don't really know how to be a man? They be crying more than you.
My father was very instrumental in all of my upbringing. Same thing, he was always extremely involved. He was coach of our teams, and we played in all pink uniforms, and he was out there with us. He really probably set the bar and the standard of the man I would marry. And so I think that daughters who are not as fortunate as I was to have a male role model like that in their life, whether it be a father, an uncle, a grandfather, any strong male role model like that, I think you definitely see what that does to girls and women as they grow up.
I did not grow up with my father.
What do you think as an adult woman that you could have learned growing up if you had your father that you might have missed out on?
If I'm speaking candidly,
Be candid.
I think that a lot of my trust issues that I had in relationships with men would have been different had I had a male figure to show me what I should be expecting from the male that I have in my life. And I never really had a frame of reference to relate that to. So I allowed certain things to be done and certain parts of me to be violated, because I didn't really understand how important it was to have a male figure in my life.
Now, I talk about it myself, and I say, I'm 39 years old now, and every day I wake up, I'm still trying to figure out how to be a man, because I didn't grow up with a father, and I didn't know how to treat women. I thought that my only manhood was based upon how many I could sleep with. And that's really, as a woman, when you look back on some of the things about the guys you dated, could you tell the difference between the guys you dated that had fathers and the ones who didn't?
I have to tell you honestly, most of the men I've dated in my life up until this particular point did not have their fathers in their lives. But the gentleman that I'm with currently has his father, had both of his parents in his life, and there's a complete difference. Complete difference.
Here's what I want to ask you. You told a story to me just a second, and I was hoping you would repeat it. We talked about how you said you grew up without a father. You said most of your friends grew up without fathers, but you told a story that really got to me. Can you repeat that story of what happened to you on one Father's Day with your little brother?
Well, me and my little brother are about 10 years apart, and I was having a very shaky day. I think I had just came from school or something like that. I had just came from hanging out, and it was the end of the night, and he just came in my room. It was Father's Day. He just came in the room. gave me this Father's Day card, and I read it, and I asked him, like, Khalil, why did you give this to me, And he said, you my big brother, you the closest thing to a father I'm ever had. And he said that, and I just lost it. It broke me, it just broke me down. I started crying and everything. And then what he said behind that was even more interesting. He said that, I know you didn't have a father, just like how I don't have a father. So, I feel like me giving you this, it's like we raising each other. And, mind you, my mom was a workaholic. I had to raise him basically. I was the one wiping his butt, changing his diapers. I was the one picking him up from school, and it's just like, I didn't have no kind of father at all. And for my brother to tell me I'm like a father to him,
Was your father ever there?
My father was, I know commercials that last longer than how long my father. He'll come around.
I like his personality.
He would come around, see me, take me with him to my grandma's house, who's a severe alcoholic, and he would just leave me there for 3 days, and then come back and get me to take me home. And then he'd tell my mom, like, oh yeah, we did X, Y, Z together, and we didn't do nothing. And that happened twice. So since I was about 9 or 10 years old, I ain't seen him since.
How many?
Basically, you raised your son.
I raised myself and my brother. My mom was there, but what can a woman, a single insecure woman, teach two grown boys?
Mom's raised him inadvertently. I'm not saying mom's a bad person, but she raised him protecting future women. She did. She taught him to respect women at all costs. This woman could drag you down the street, tear all your clothes off, but long as she don't run you over with that car, you gotta respect her. And dudes are like that, man.
I've always said, and I think my mom did it to me, I said, my mom raised me to be a simp. I said, if you think about it, your mom raises you to be the man she had a hard time picking.
Because, she raised you to be the man that she didn't pick.
Mm-hmm. She couldn't get him, so she raised you to make up for all the mistakes that whoever she couldn't get.
So the thing about it, when dudes actually get involved with women, they have no basis to formulate any plan of attack. Otherwise, Pops ain't gonna tell you what to say to no woman, but he gonna tell you little things that you're supposed to be doing, that boys do. And these things are the little hallmarks that promote a boy to think man thoughts. But in my book, I talk about it. The boy is 4 years old. He's listening to mom, don't need men, hate men, ain't nothing. Now he's 8 years old. He's been listening to this for 4 years. It's getting ingrained in him now. He's 12 years old. He's been listening to this stuff for 8 years. The person that he loves the most in the world is saying men ain't shit. He has disassociated himself with becoming a man.
Who wants to grow up into that which the one that they love the most
He
hates?
ain't trying to grow up into no man. So he missing all the man things that little boys get. Because the person he loved the most is saying mans ain't shit. He don't know he's doing this. It don't manifest until he's 13, 14, and start looking for a girl.
My lack of having a father, along with a lot of those guys' lack of having a father, hearing your father through you, good and bad. Because when you talk about yourself, you talk about the good and the bad you did. And so you can think about the good and the bad that came with your father, which we'll address. Have you noticed that that father in you brings that calmness to you, which makes men like us who are older than you, bigger than you, a lot of them have millions of dollars, hang on your every word because in you, they see a father.
Yeah, I did not think about that. And I'm glad you brought that up, because from your perspective, but I never looked at it like that. But when you say it, I can relate to it. And I noticed something because each year, you only on a 1-year contract, but from 2010 up until 2014, and I may get invited back this year, I speak to the NBA rookies at their rookie transition program. So these 60 future millionaires, which maybe 30 of them become millionaires, they're sitting there and I'm talking to them, and the topic is embracing manhood. One thing that I've noticed is that the guys without a father, or the guys who maybe their father wasn't very vocal and very transparent, those are the ones that gravitate towards me. And we become really cool, really close, really tight. The guys with a father who was active in the home, I never hear from them again. Because it's like, I got my guidance. I got my one that I'm listening to. I don't need you. And so now when you say that, it makes me think like, wow, it's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that.
Also, I was interested in players. I got to make them the best athlete I can. I've got to be sure they get a degree. But the third thing I added was I want them to be better spiritually. Now, a lot of people wouldn't agree with that, but by golly, I do. And I'm the coach, so that's what I'm going to do, So I'd preach to them, man, I mean, the night before every ball game, I would have a little devotion with them. I want them to be better boys, and good boys. And see, here's the thing about it. Different, probably a lot different where you came from. Is nowadays, my last years at Florida State, 65 or 70% of my boys did not have a daddy at home. They're raised by mamas, them sweet old mamas, Thank God for them mamas, or grandmama. Many times it was grandmama, or big sister or aunt. But where's the man? A boy needs a male figure, and the girls do too. Somebody to discipline them and make them be a man. I used to kid about this. They grow up and want to be like their mama. They want to be a man like their mama, but that's the way they were raised.
Right.
That's why they wear earrings. That's
What was your?
I'm kidding about that.
No,
I had children too.
So what do you do as a mother now? How do you impart that onto your kid when you know a lot of what you're dealing with comes from what you didn't have as a kid?
Well, my boys are older now, they're military, and I overcompensated, which also wasn't good. I overcompensated, which caused problems. Oh gosh, if somebody sees this. And I think that happens a lot to single moms because we feel so bad. So we try and do more because we know they have a loss. But then that creates almost a sense of entitlement to kids. Maybe we should be having them do more chores, more this, more that, but we're so busy trying to do it all to keep it together and to make up for the loss. I think that's a whole new set of issues.
I broke down on the phone and I told him, I said, I would fight to get with you. And you didn't get that then. You didn't get it. You didn't understand. And I said, so I started to look for the attention other places. And the other places that I looked for, it was not the right place all the time. It wasn't. And I wish I could have had him there to understand where I was coming from. When I would want it, like, my brother was my daddy. My brother was my dad. My mama was looking for love too. So it was like she was running from us. She was running from us because she never had a good example. My granddaddy was a good guy, but my grandma chased him off. So only time he would be there for my mom is when she was with him. But when he passed, it was just like our whole life just cleared out. It was just like my granddad was trying to be our dad for a long time. And when he got killed, it just, to me, it broke us all up. It broke everybody because we had nobody else to turn to. Nobody. No family members we could call on. My whole family is women. It's women. Our generation of men die so young, and our family, they die in their 30s. So it's not like a cousin or uncle I could run to and say, this is what I'm going through, uncle. Without being, to me, I think I would be more judged than anything because they start to talk like women because they was only raised by women. So our family just, to me, is broken. My whole family, my big family that we have is broken because we're a bunch of women. We catty. We petty. We argue about stuff when we should be coming together about things. My aunts prostituting. The stuff I see is, and they're proud of it though. It's like they proud. They walk around with their heads up about stuff like that. And I look at them and I say, I want my kids to be like that. That's not how I want my kids to see life. And I guess that was part of my change, and stop having the anger for my dad, because I had anger for him for a long time, and I used to tell people, I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. Because to me, he kind of ruined me as a person. And I guess after being with so many men, I had to build myself up, just period. I just know I was like, I'm not going to take no more of this. I'm not going to do this for no dollar. I said, I want better. And I've been trying. I told my son, I know I can't raise him to be a man, but I can show him a woman's point of view. Wow.
Children from fatherless homes in this country, 5 times more likely to commit suicide than children who have a father in the home. 32 times more likely to run away. 20 times more likely to have a behavioral disorder. 14 times more likely to become sexually aggressive or commit rape. 10 times more likely to engage in drug abuse. It just breaks my heart. No heat, no judgment.
Woman will open up and say, you know what, not having my father really is a problem, really is an issue. And I wish we could get more black women to just point out, wait a minute, it's not cool that your kids don't have that father. It's not cool that you didn't grow up with yours. It's not, I don't need no man. It's not, fathers don't matter. It's not, niggas ain't shit. It's actually, we as a people, we as a culture, we as a community have to deal with each other. And in dealing with each other, if we're creating children, if we're having little innocent beings who only thing they know about themselves is what we present about ourselves. I don't know if that makes any sense to any of you guys. If you are a Jew and you know that you must be a doctor, a lawyer, or something like that, that matters. Your goal is higher. What you want to be in life is exalted. But if you think about what happens with us as black men, our goal in life is where? What do we have to look up to? Who do we have to look up to? Was our fathers impressive? Was our grandfathers impressive? It doesn't even matter what you say sometimes to your children. It's what you do. It's what you have. It's the presence you command. It's the maturity of how you deal with each other and deal with other people. And that's the biggest thing we need in the black community. Where does that start? To me, it's with fathers. If your man is confident, your man is proud. When your man is proud, he loves what he has. He protects what he has when he has these situations. And that's when you, as a woman, as a man, as a family, as a community, that's when we'll be better. When we actually care about each other. It starts with the fathers. It starts with the relationship and the children.
It's a documentary about, it's called The Fatherless America. We're talking about the role of fathers. So the first question I want to ask you is, did you grow up with an active father in your life?
Yes, very much so.
What do you think is the value of having an active father? What was it to you?
Well, I can't imagine life without an active father in my life. I mean, it's hard for me to fathom it or to conceptualize what it would be like. You know, to have somebody there who cared about me, who supported me, who encouraged me. I don't know how I could have turned out in a positive way without that.
I live every day blessed, knowing that I have his love and I have his support no matter what. And there's really nothing that I can do to show that appreciation other than to be the best woman that I know that I can be.
I always wonder why no one ever took time to see if there was a correlation between the way that our men deal with life, relationship, their children, their marriages, their finances, and the way that they related to their fathers. It's a simple question that we look at and we think, that couldn't matter, especially amongst us. And it's one of the reasons why we're here in St. Louis, just to see if anyone will acknowledge the dynamic, the role that fathers play in the lives of their children. The sad part is, after no matter how much research is done, how many numbers are put out there, statistics, people are going to still deny what we all know is true. Don't you think there should be somewhere along the line that we look at this and say, why is it that, especially in the Black community, the man has been marginalized to the point where he's not needed? He's only needed when it comes to knocking the woman up. After that, he's useless. He's a check. He's someone you can blame. If things go wrong, you can blame him. If the kids grow up to be bad, what do you say? They didn't have a father, they had a bad father, whatever. They grow up to be good, you can say you did it without him. He's a scapegoat.
And nobody's ever stopped to ask any of us, how did this screwed up situation affect your life? I don't know how to be no damn dad, because I didn't see one. My daughter now, I get it.
And it took time.
Yeah, I get that.
Same here.
Before then, I'm no different than my dad.
Yeah.
The first child that I had out of wedlock. I'm a stepfather. My oldest son is actually my stepson, but we don't believe in stepchildren. So he's my son. I raised him since he was 6 years old. But the first child that came out of me, I had out of wedlock. And unfortunately, his mother was angry because she thought pregnancy meant marriage. And I was 21 years old. I wasn't ready for marriage. So she disappeared with my son.
Well, when I was raised as a child, my father was taken from me as soon as I was born. My mother, she didn't want any of my father to do any of me and my twin sister relationship, so she neglected him from seeing us. So we couldn't, neglecting us from seeing him, basically.
And it was normal to us. Like, it was no big deal that you didn't know your father, or that if you knew your father, he wasn't here. It wasn't a problem. I never really thought it was a problem until I started going to high school, and I noticed all of the white kids had their fathers, and none of the black kids did.
He used to know our schedule of going to school, growing up, because we were living from her, we left her, and we lived with my grandmother as a child. So we started going to school in elementary school in New York, in South Bronx. And my father used to stop at the park in the morning just to see us. And she used to let us, eventually we got comfortable as children walking to school, she used to let us walk straight to school because it's a straight shot. So he taught me how to tie my shoes in the park. He taught me like a lot of stuff in the park, but it was like, you know, don't let your grandmother know I do this. And one day she found out, and then it was a big issue.
Last time I saw him, he was 4 months old, and he was gone. I went to change his diaper like I did on a regular basis, knocked on the door, and they were gone. It was 13 years before I found him. I searched this before the internet. You couldn't just go log in a person's name. I used a phone book and things of that nature and couldn't find him. Finally, after 13 years, I hired a private investigator and tracked him down. He was in Texas.
What was her issue? I don't really know, because like with her, she wasn't too fond of men. That's what I was told by one of my aunts. So I'm not quite sure what her issue was. It might have been something that she went through as a child growing up. Her father was kind of there, but not really so much in her life. My grandmother, that is. So it might be that. And then my mother, she never really had a father growing up either. So like my grandmother took her father away from her, and then she's doing the same thing that my grandmother was doing to me and my twin sister. So, and he was trying to be in our life the whole time. And I did live with him when I went to New York about 1 year. I lived with him for like that 1 year, and it changed me a lot that 1 year. Like I started picking up New York swag, but then he disciplined me a lot. Like I stopped acting a fool in school, stopped like really acting stupid, talking back to teachers, stuff like that. And it's kind of more freedom, but it was more like structured freedom.
13 years, I went and found him, contacted his mother, she was okay. She said, you can go see him. I went to Texas and asked him to move to California with me. For 13 years, I couldn't let that thing go. It was something inside of me that I have a child out there that looks like me. It was something that was grating me. I tried every avenue until I found him.
I talk about black men, white men, period, but mostly black men. How we've become second and third class citizens, especially when it comes to the lives of our children.
Right.
For a while, we've been hearing that, I don't need a man, and then you have kids growing up with that mother that says, I don't need a man. So he grows up to not believe that he is needed in the home. He is ever needed. So if he does get a woman pregnant, he has no reason to be there because mama did it by herself, so why do I need to be there? I grew up in a situation where I remember my mother telling me, you look just like your ugly ass daddy.
Wow.
She would say things like that. So I felt bad about even the half of me, which was basically the whole of me, because I would look in the mirror and see that man.
In the 5 years this case has been ongoing, the court has received no credible evidence that father has done anything to negatively affect the mental, physical, or emotional health of these children. In fact, this father has moved mountains to be able to be part of his children's lives.
It's the cardinal rule of divorce not to say anything bad about your ex to your child. But again, we're talking about something where there is a campaign of denigration and a child is made to feel guilty if he even starts to reconcile with the other parent.
I firmly believe that mother believes that it is appropriate behavior of these children to react this way to adults and to the father. I think she sees there's no issue with it whatsoever and not a problem. She supports it. This is part of the problems with these kids. I think the damage is so severe.
I look at it like this. I made several mistakes that I wouldn't have made if I just had a father there that gave a shit. One of the worst things that happened to me was my mom got married. And what she got married to was a dude that didn't want the kids that came with the marriage. And I had to be that dude that once she got a kid by him, I wasn't shit.
Somebody needs to pay for all my children and mine and Gary, all our suffering, all our pain. Somebody needs to be held accountable, and they need to pay.
My my aunt was telling me about how it happened. Okay, she's talking about, I think I want to say it's talking about maybe the 50s or the 60s, like when the like the welfare laws and all that stuff came into place. They couldn't, if you were in the projects, you couldn't get the checks if it was a man in the house. So it used to be like, she used to tell me like they used to have men be hiding in the closet, all this kind of stuff, hiding from social workers and the third trying to, so the one, you know what I mean? But after a while, like it just degraded them so bad, you know what I mean? They start picking up leaves, you know what I mean?
Now that's all from welfare, that's all from WIC, that's all from food stamps. Free health care, what they call Medicaid. Okay, now let's build a project. This is a ghetto environment to the fullest, but we're gonna give them things like $1 rent, free park and recreation for their kids, summer programs. But hold on, you can't have no man staying with you.
What do you think we've gotten to the point of where, like your mom was able to say, well, I mean, he wasn't there. Yeah. And I remember thinking that same way about my dad. I remember saying, and I wrote music and I said, You can't miss what you never had. The word dad was nothing more than a myth. Each Christmas, no gifts that created the rift. I was saying, you know, I hate this man that I don't know, but then I'm being told that it's not a big deal that you don't have him. This was one of the last places I lived. And what makes living here so strange is that probably while I was trying to put this movie together, I realized that I lived right there. And my dad lived 1, 2, 3, 4 houses down. I didn't even know it. My dad lived 4 houses down with his wife and children. Why is it that in the black community we look at the lack of fatherless as not a big deal?
I think it's all about repetition. Like you said earlier, generation-wise, like repetition is not going to be something that's been told not just daily, but generation, like yearly, and decade by decade. So like my grandmother, basically, I think she's the one that truly started it. But I think that since then, it's become accepted, you know?
Feminism gone amok. I think it had a time and a place, and it's gone far beyond. Now it's gone to a point of devaluing men in order to lift them, which serves no purpose.
Well, as I grew up, I realized that women like my mom, who had a bunch of kids that they couldn't take care of, well, the state gave them a house, and they would give them food. They would give them things for their kid, but they would never take the kid away from them or put them in jail. But if you were a guy and you were in the same situation, you had 4 kids and you couldn't take care of them, well, what would they do to you?
It's a lot of protection for these women out here nowadays too. So we have to be careful. Us men have to be careful what we do and say just to protect ourselves. And women, I feel like in this generation now, have a lot of power.
And mama usually gets all the props and all the respect and all the attention in the ghetto because remember, daddy can't live there.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that we then end up as women raising children who can't be men or responsible women.
Did you grow up with an active father in your life?
Yes.
What role do you think that played in your life as far as having a father as opposed to some girls who grew up without one?
I think it really helped me with like knowing my value as like a woman, because like he was very treated my mom in a certain way, so I saw how like I should be treated as I got older and as a woman now.
The question posed to us today was whether we've reached an age of gender equality. I don't think we have.
Birth is a life-changing moment for parents, but for fathers in New Jersey, it could now be a privilege and not a right. This week, a Superior Court published the ruling that a woman can bar a father from the delivery room.
This idea that men and women aren't the same species, that we aren't on the same team, and they somehow turn chivalry on its head, where they have men all over the world, but especially in the West, apologizing for being male as if we did something wrong.
In the decision, believed to be the first of its kind, the father was also told he doesn't have a right to know when the baby's born.
I think it's a sad day for fathers and for fathers and men's rights.
And they sell it as chivalrous to hate yourself, chivalrous that men are bad and men are disempowered, as if disempowering men empowers women.
The most remarkable fact about the decline of men in America is how relentlessly our leaders pretend it's not happening at all. The patriarchy is thriving, they tell us. Men are in charge, and they succeed precisely to the extent they thwart the progress of women. Society is a zero-sum equation in which a man's gain is a woman's loss. This is wrong, and we must rectify it. That's the message.
Jeff Golden from Fathers and Children's Equality worries that this sort of ruling paves the way for some fathers to be nothing more than visitors and paychecks to their own children.
A child is born, a child has two parents, and there should be two equal parents.
We've overshot the age of gender equality by a long stretch, and men of your generation are going to be the primary victims of this error. In secondary school, you will have experienced a system that is tilted against boys.
Those also happen to be the core assumptions of second-wave feminism, which became popular 40 years ago, just as many of our baby boom leaders were coming of age. And yet none of those assumptions are true today. America has changed completely. The patriarchy is gone. Women are winning. Men are failing.
Your exams will have been primarily modular, not linear, a system that favors girls. Teachers will have tried to control and pathologize your boisterous behavior, branding you young offenders for pranks or cyberbullies for typical male teenage trash talk. Taunting, after all, is how men bond.
In March of 2009, almost immediately after arriving in Washington, Barack Obama created the White House Council on Women and Girls. He tapped his advisor, Valerie Jarrett, to run it. Quote, "When our daughters don't have the same education and career opportunities as our sons," Obama said in his announcement, "that affects our economy and our future as a nation." At the very moment Obama was lamenting the lack of educational opportunities for women, more girls than boys were graduating from high school. Far more were graduating from college. Women now earn 62% of associate's degrees, 57% of bachelor's degrees, 60% of master's degrees, and 52% of doctorates.
Your female peers will be encouraged at every stage of their educational journey. They will be told to join a STEM field. They'll be showered, in fact, with grants and awards, prizes, and encouragement. And then when they do get to applying for those jobs, you will be discriminated against just because they're a girl.
Men in America are now far more likely to die of a drug overdose, drop out of the workforce because of an addiction, commit a felony, and go to prison. They fail in school much more often than women do. They kill themselves at many times the rate. Overall, they die years younger. Those numbers are not speculative. They are hard data gathered over decades by nonpartisan researchers. You'd have to ignore a huge amount of settled science in order to repeat the pieties of 1970s-era feminism. And yet that is exactly what our leaders continue to do.
Welcome to the new wave of feminism. Welcome to each other. Welcome home.
Let me know when you're ready. All right. You know the funny part about this whole thing is that you look at those photos of the firefighters who lost their lives here on 9/11, trying to save others. And the one thing that nobody wants to tell you about is that these were men. There weren't any pictures of women on there. They were men. They were men who ran into the fire. There were men who decided that other people's lives were more important than theirs. And yet again, on Father's Day, you have $7 billion less being spent on fathers than mothers. But these were all fathers, brothers, men who ran to save other people. Why are men not being appreciated? Why is fatherhood, why is these people forgotten so to the point of where we won't stand up for their rights? Why is it that when these men find themselves in the courthouse trying to fight for custody of their children, why is it that these men, when they find themselves having alimony strip them of their ability to be able to take care of themselves? Why is it that these men who put everything on the line for us, they put everything on the line for us, and yet we're not willing to put anything on the line for them? We're not willing to stand up and say, fathers, these men who risk their lives every day, these men who go and fight overseas, military men, they are actually worth us treating like equal citizens. As a matter of fact, maybe they should be treated like more because they've given more. Think about that.
Dear Feminism, here's one of the main legacies that you're going to leave behind. Did you know that children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty, plus commit crime? Did you know that children who grow up without a father are 9 times more likely to drop out of school? Did you know that children who grow up without a father are 20 times more likely to end up in prison? The world has statistics that will show the importance of a father. Everyone knows them, but we don't discuss them. The question is why? It's damn near criminal that we try to pretend that not having a father in a child's life does not have any bearing on that child's future.
You don't have to hate me, 'cause your mama does. I hope that we can go back to the way it was. You don't have to hate me.
I don't think all of this is necessary.
Look, she's my daughter too, and I'm trying to
I
talk
don't think
to
she
her.
needs to hear nothing you gotta say.
Why we gotta argue about I didn't know.
I think about my daughter a lot because I wouldn't be where I am were it not for her.
Right turn ahead and then keep right.
She's like the greatest inspiration in my life. Before she was born, I had no idea what I wanted to do and nothing mattered. After she was born and along with some of the things that I went through during the first parts of her life, my daughter became one of my greatest inspirations through the idea of fighting for her, fighting for the idea that you're having to deal with. You didn't have the child in the correct situation, because I didn't have the child in the correct situation. But that doesn't mean that her mother and I can't realize that the most important person in this whole equation is her. It's not me. It's not what I'm looking for. It's not her. It's not what she's looking for. It's this life that we've created. And the joy of being her parent is indescribable. And I just wish that every father who wanted that opportunity had that chance. Yeah, I know there are situations where the guy doesn't want to be there. And even in those situations, we need to be able to say, why can't a man turn away when a woman can turn away? It's a good question, and someone needs to ask it. But when the guy does want to be there, why is it that we have a system that makes this thing of being just a parent? Why do we have a system that makes this difficult? This should never be a challenge for a man to be a father.
It's a societal problem. It's not a race problem. Society has, I was going to say hoodwink, but I didn't want to use that term. But really, society has pushed women to the point that they feel they don't need a man, especially with science and having babies without a man, you know, the transfer of the sperm and so on and so forth that's going on in laboratories. Women literally think that they can do better without a man.
And this is normal.
And it shouldn't be. It really honestly shouldn't be. Because there are dads out there, fathers out there who are better parents than the women, than the mothers. And the bias is, I think it's crazy, it's disrespectful.
Over the course of 40 years, right, in the mainstream media, the father was portrayed as a simpleton or an idiot, you know, the Dick Van Dyke tripping over the dais in the living room, or Homer Simpson, you know, the idiot dad. And in fact, I think there was a parody at one point, you know, hey, this coming soon to ABC this fall, our new show, Simpleton Father. So yeah, I mean, so you can sort of understand the sort of the destruction of fatherhood in the marketplace and why we are where we are in that regard.
Why do you think they're doing it? Like, they're doing this movie to me is because I'm trying to counter this attack against fathers. I've made, there's this Angel Soft, the toilet tissue. Well, the company came out with an advertisement a couple of months ago.
She really is like the most amazing mother, but she was really an incredible father.
And you saw the advertisement. I literally made them apologize for the advertisement.
My wife, in fact. Now, you know something, that's for me, that's sort of water off a duck's back. I sort of expect that. My wife was very offended by that because I have a tremendous role in my kids' lives. You know, we have a very co-equal parenting situation, but I'm the guy who gets the kids up in the morning, sort of gets them off to school, and I'm the one who does the lion's share of the cooking at home. So I have a very active role in my kids' lives. You can say that there may be the societal impulse to denigrate the role of the father, but it's never going to change the fact that fathers are absolutely vital in a family.
Happy Father's Day, Mom.
Oh, Mom. Happy Father's Day.
Fatherhood has been trivialized, though.
It shouldn't
Today, 2015, you go in, say if you and I have a baby, if I get so lucky, if you and I were to have a kid, but if this would have happened, if you decide we never wanted to deal with each other again, the first thing the judge would do, the first decree would be, she gets the kid, you get to see it once every other weekend. And let me break this down to you what once every other weekend is. I would pick up little Adina Howard Jr. I'd pick him up. And when I pick him up, I'd get him on Friday after school around 7. And because I'm violent, you would make me do it at the police station.
That would be all bad.
So I'd pick him up at 7 Friday night. I'd have to drop him back by Sunday. So what I would probably get him is a total of 48 hours. If he's a regular sleeping child, he's going to sleep 16 of those hours. Keep breaking that down and you say, what can I do as far as a parent per month? Because there's 4 days in a month. 4 days out of a month, 31 days, 4 out of the 31. 30 sometimes, maybe on Black History Month, 28. You get that kid for 24 days and can indoctrinate little Adina Howard Jr. You can make him into whatever you want him to be, and I can only be Disney dad because when he comes over to see me, I have to entertain him for those 2 days or I'm a bad dad. How can I be a good dad when the judge decrees immediately, you get your kid 4 days out of a month, the rest of it belongs to the mom. Your main job is to finance, and if it was me, which sucks, my main job would be not only finance the kid, but you.
One guy in California, he was in the IT boom. He was making like $1.5 million a year. He now lives in a studio apartment, but his wife lives in that mansion. He's struggling to try and pay, and he found out after being divorced that 2 of the 3 kids he had with her were not his. Yet the court says, even though they're not his, and it's been proven that they're not his, he still has to pay child support because they were conceived within a marriage. With laws being the way that they are, do you think that men are sometimes just opting just not to be involved in it because it's not beneficial to them?
Right. It may be, they may conceive it as safer to have the relationship, and when I need to cut bait, I get to cut bait, and there's a clean, there's nothing tied together. Exactly right.
Men around the country really don't want to share their stories. It's like, it goes back to what you were saying. Many of them will say, well, I guess this is what's supposed to happen. I only see my kids every other whatever. It's what's supposed to happen. What happened with you where you were able to relate to us men?
Well, number one, I was dragged in by my ex. And usually for most men, that's how we get pulled into the system. A female, whether it's the girlfriend that you have a child by or the wife that you're divorcing. It's a woman that pulls you in. And I'm speaking of men because, there's another side too where men pull women in. But in most cases, it's women pulling men in.
It's such an anti-family proposition what this child support is. Where I understand where it came from when there was a time when women were getting divorce decree was basically what a man wanted to get away from a woman. And it was something that he had to not only pay for the woman in alimony, but child support. And then it changed. And I think once it changed, society changed. And that's why I'm one of those that try to get laws changed. Because they put a lot of laws in place in order to change society's thinking. When you allowed divorce, well, people wanted to get divorced more. There was no reason when you started to make divorce acceptable. Now people are on their 8th, 9th, 10th divorce, and no one flinches or bats an eye. Same thing that happened when we have children out of wedlock. Once you made it okay to do it, Everyone does it. It's abnormal for a 30-year-old black woman to not have a kid now. The first question black women ask other black women is, why you don't have a kid? They don't ask them why you don't have a husband. These are things that were brought upon by laws in place. I think the child support laws, in my opinion, child support laws are there to further separate the man from the kid, because once you put a kid and put a number on that kid's head, that guy's not going to love that kid. That kid is a bill. It's hard to love something that becomes a bill, and they're doing it on purpose to separate.
There was really no need for us to go into family court. Again, I opted to resolve everything out of court. The only thing that was at stake, beloved, was the children, which is support, monthly support, and visitation. After that, property. You don't have to go to court for those things. It's simple. Well, if reason dominates. But if you're emotional and you're vindictive, if you are revenge-based, then you're going to court. And when you go to court, everything comes out, especially when you have an attorney involved. See, family law attorneys, family law lawyers, they would rather be a big part of the problem than a small part of the solution.
Nobody's really standing up for men right now.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
So that's why I relate. You look in the comment section, you see white guys, you see all kind of guys from everywhere, and they're saying, we're dealing with the same fucking issues. White guys are getting their ass kicked in court right now. Yeah. The women are taking them in there, getting alimony and child support, and then allowing them to see their kid every other weekend.
Well, men go in, you go into court, you're already 2 strikes down. I've been through that in child support. And you walk into court, and even if you're doing the right thing as a father, you automatically have 2 strikes against you.
When it comes to child support money, it outweighs child visitation. It's like this, because money is at stake, and the court is all about the money. It needs that money to keep the doors open, even though we pay taxes. But the filing fees, in California, the filing fees are like $410. Wow. And then after that, $90, $120. If you do ex parte, $30. It's a lot of money to be made.
Hey, men, we're the bad guys, and we walk into the court, they're looking at us as the bad guys.
That's true.
Have you ever noticed, if a woman kills her kid, the first thing they say is what's wrong with her, what was mentally wrong with her, something had to be stressed out. When a woman cuts a man's penis off, they say, well, what did he do to her?
Yeah, you're right.
America's Funniest Videos, you always see one video of some man getting kicked in the nuts or a ball hitting him in the nuts. Guess what you don't see? You don't see a man anywhere in America that's ever killed his kids and they say, I wonder what was wrong with him.
I know a dude told me a story that made me sad. He said they put him in jail for 30 days, brought him back in front of the court after 30 days. The judge said, now do you have some money? He said, I've been in jail 30 days. And the judge told him, and you going back 30 more.
Now, when you deal with child support versus child visitation, the court, it's going to weigh in the favor of child support because it's money. The counties get money for collecting child support. I don't know if most men know that, but they don't do it for free. They make money. And if you think about all the hundreds of thousands and millions of men in particular counties paying child support, that little $25, $35, $50 per month per obligor parent, it adds up. It's serious money. So child support is going to dominate over child visitation.
Somebody in your family got some money.
Yeah, that's what they say. If you ain't got the money, somebody got the money.
Right.
But see, it ain't that person's responsibility. See, that's what the judge need to know. You know what I'm saying? Why the judge don't force men to spend time with the child? Cause you
never see a woman going to say,
right, he don't spend time. Cause you put a stack of money in front of that child and tell that child that money can't raise that child. You know what I'm
The
saying?
18-year-old boys, you know, think back to themselves, oh man, I sure missed them checks my daddy should have sent me. No, they don't think that. They say, I sure missed that time.
Did you know that 70% of all marriages in the United States are dissolved by the woman? The woman is going to court and asking for a divorce. Yet many of us got married, myself included, got married because why? Because the woman said, we need to get married. So we get pushed into a marriage that they themselves pull out of at a 70% clip. Because they have incentive to fuck us over, and they have a court system that's going to allow them to do so.
Hey, listen, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. See, men we have to take accountability as well too. We are allowing what takes place in family court to occur. We're doing it because we've also bought into men being victims of the system and not victors.
There was a woman who I did a story about, and the woman had 15 kids. She got on television and said, I got 15 kids. Somebody gonna help me take care of these kids. You know, the government gave her a 6-bedroom house, but if you was a man and you had 15 kids and you couldn't take care of them, what would they do to you?
Definitely not put me on child support and lock me up.
That's what I'm saying. So do you think that's fair?
No. It's not.
So why aren't we as black men out talking about this? We don't talk about the fact that this system isn't fair. We don't talk about the fact that they don't allow us to see our children, but they sure will come get you if you ain't paid.
Everybody jumped up and was glad that that woman beat her son, the Baltimore riot moment. Good girls, good girls. But you see how the media threw her in front of everybody? White folks don't even believe in beating their kids, but they put her on TV. Y'all didn't notice that? White folks believe in putting their kids on timeout, but they was like, so riot mom is great. Because they are making you black women out to be violent, and they like seeing you as violent. And guess what? That little boy who got beat on television and made fun of when he go back to school, guess who he gonna be when he about 21? The dude that's sticking you up to prove to them damn kids that he ain't no punk like he got displayed on TV. Now that woman who beat that kid, and they say she a great mom, guess how many kids she got? 6. Guess how many daddies? 6. How is this woman able to survive, have a place to live, but keep on having kids? You couldn't take care of the second one. Should you have had a third one, a fourth one, a fifth one? But she's looked at as a great mom. Now, when a woman can't afford to pay for the kids she has, what happens? She gets help from the state. She get a house, she gets some WIC, food, all kinds of shit. When a nigga can't take care of his 5, 6 kids, what do they put him in?
In jail.
Do you think the system is fair at that point?
A misnomer. It's the judges, it's the court personnel, it's the court-appointed officers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're the ones who are biased because they watch television, they read the books, they consult with the attorney, so they're biased. The code is not biased because the code does not say children should go with the mother. Doesn't say that at all. The code doesn't say that men shall pay for the children. The code doesn't say that. The code is broken down into custodial parent and non-custodial parent. So what happens is, in most cases, men are pushed into the category of the non-custodial parent. And the non-custodial parent doesn't get all of the benefits of the custodial parent. So family law attorneys are good at maneuvering women into the role of the custodial parent or party. And then underneath that, family law attorneys are good at making the custodial parent, especially when the parent is a female, making the custodial parent also a victim. See, when we talk about custody, you have to understand that there is a host, a myriad of decisional law or legal precedent on the books that deal with in the best interest of the child. So you have to learn what the best interest of a child, especially in your particular case, what it is or what it should be in your particular case. So in family court, you have to know what is in the best interest for a child, your child or children in particular. It's there in the code book. It's in the best interest. It's not predicated upon gender. They tell you that. It's not predicated upon gender. The number one thing, and this is what excites me in my case, this is California law, people. In California, and it may be like that in other states, but I'm not familiar with other states' codes, millions of codes. California is enough for me. It states, custody should be granted to the parent that is more likely to allow the other parent frequent and consistent contact with the children. I grew up watching too many of my male friends and cousins, grown men, crying because of what a vindictive, spiteful, bitter female did to them, because there was a system set up for her to use against him or these guys in their ignorance to break them down. And some of which are deadbeat dads, because before they were deadbeat dads, they were beat dead by a woman and attorneys using a system.
New tonight, a man dies after being shot by police in downtown Durham.
And WRAL is asking questions this evening, trying to learn what may have driven a man to taunt police until an officer shot him.
26-year-old Derek Walker, distraught, holding a gun in this downtown Durham square, urging police to shoot him.
Like, to see my son's dad downtown with a gun in his hand,
pointing the gun toward police, saying what appeared to be, "Shoot me," several times.
I don't know what drove him to this point. That's why I say it's more than that. It's deeper than that. It's not me. Like, it's easy to point the finger on me.
Before the standoff that led to his death, Walker took to his Facebook page. That's where he posted a message venting his frustrations over a custody battle with Alston, at one point saying he had no reason to live. Alston says she was shocked when she saw that message.
There was never a custody battle over my son.
He pointed the gun at the police officers because he was committing suicide by cop. We've also seen these guys self-emotion, where they would just light themselves on fire, just to prove a point of how unfair the system is. You have men right now that are having to take their kids, or feeling like they're forced to take their kids and run across the border and things like that, simply because the court does not look at a man's ability and his want to be a father as anything special. As a matter of fact, they can take these rights away from a dude. And Mr. Walker decided that he'd rather not live than to not be with his children. And I think that's sad, because on several points, those kids are now going to be without a father. You would say, well, you should have kept fighting. But why do we ask men to continue to fight over this obstacle that women are legally allowed to put in front of the male? Why is this a normal process? Why is it that if a woman doesn't allow you to see your kids and you just say, screw it, if she's gonna make it difficult, I'm just gonna move on with my life? Why is it that he's looked at as a bad person? You should have kept fighting. You should keep fighting. At what point do you get tired of fighting? At what point do you blame the person making you have to fight? No man should have to fight to see his children, ever. If he wants to be in his kid's life, he should be allowed to. Yet we have a court system that allows the woman to make it difficult for this man to be what he was supposed to be at the birth of that kid, a father. We need to, as men, stand together, and as women too, if you believe in family. Why would you allow the court system and women like this to destroy men's lives and children's lives? Because say whatever you want. We have laws put in place where they believe that the woman is supposed to have custody of the kid. We have laws put in place where the man is supposed to believe that he only sees his kid once every other weekend. We have laws in place where a man understands that if you are behind on child support, you should be jailed. We are willingly having our rights stripped away as men.
I can't believe that we as a people aren't starting to wake up to the idea that the more you have these fatherless children, the more you have these crimes, this insecurity, these citizens who aren't well-rounded. Walker's case shows it. Walker's family, the woman's family. Yet it's been 2 years and no one cares. But you'll always know that Ray Rice put his hands on a woman in the elevator, because how dare he do this? That's not causing the same type of damage that these fatherless children are causing. That's the biggest issue.
On June 16th, 2015, Mr. Donald Trump announced his candidacy for the presidency of the United States. In his speech, he discussed things like illegal immigration, offshoring of American jobs, and the United States national debt. He also spoke on Islamic terrorism and other things. But the point is, you had a man who, even though he was born into money, has had no problem being outspoken and standing as a man. The United States shuns masculinity today. The United States surely shuns fatherhood. But at the end of this, what you realize is that there is an attack on manhood. You had a presidential candidate who could not say what he felt when it came to the other candidate because she was a woman. But you had that woman able to say whatever she wanted to about him. We as men are going through that today. You want to talk about a fatherless America? Look around you. You see the lack of men in churches. You see the lack of men in the grocery store. You see the lack of men in the PTA meetings. You see a lack of men and fathers all over. The whole purpose of me doing this movie is to show you that women have all these options, and many of these options are to destroy the relationship and the bond between the father and the children, and to destroy the man, period. The court systems allow this. So this is why you have children running the streets wild, because there's nobody there for them. The only people left to parent our children is our government. And that's exactly what your government wants. To be the father, to be the one who punishes your children. We're being enslaved because the biggest and the strongest of your humanity, the men, are being subjugated to everyone and everything. It starts with the influence. If it takes two parents to make these children, then maybe it should take two parents to raise them. Women have way more options to opt out of parenting, yet men don't. And if we really wanted a true and fair society, men would have the same options.
Like I said, I'll tell you the truth. I had a lot of great role models that happened to be men, to teach me what, my angel of a mother was not going to be able to do. And she was aware that my buddies' dads were taking me in. I spent half of my childhood at Dwayne Wapples' house. Thank you, Mr. Wapples, and he's rest in peace. He passed away about 15 years ago, but he took me in. And it's only in having my son that I realized what was going on, because you watch your life through the eyes of your child sometimes, and not so much my daughter even, because she's a girl. I'm like, she reminds me of my mom and my sisters. I got a million of them, right? My son, I was like, I could just see myself like a little midget me. And then I was like, what was I doing at his age? Because he looks just like me. Then I remember where I was and what I was doing. And then I realized that the other people at those places were grown. And then I remembered that Henry Wapples, Mr. Wapples, took care of me. He took me in. I didn't just spend a whole lot of time at Dwayne's house. His daddy was molding me. Christmas time, he brought me everything. He brought his son. That's deep. Can nobody ask for that? His mom would buy him a little extra, let him know, you my son. You know what I'm saying? But his dad would get me everything he got his son. I remember it clearly. He got a skateboard, I got a skateboard. Now, pardon me if I get emotional, but that's extraordinary. That doesn't get a lot of airplay. that doesn't get a lot of airtime. You don't see that on Entertainment Tonight.
No.
You know what I mean? You hear stories every once in a while. You get more of the Ray Rice stuff. You get more of the sensational. If it bleeds, it leads. That's what the news is, and that's still their motto. If it bleeds, it leads. These real life stories of heroes every day. They just don't get the airplay, but they're out there. And he fed me. He beat my behind when I needed it. He helped us with our homework. He sold clothes. He cooked food. My mom was a vegetarian, right? And she raised us a vegetarian. Mr. Wapples didn't care about that. His house, his rules. That taught me something. His house, his rules. I came in there, you're gonna have some turkey today. And he fed me, and he raised me like I was his own, and it had a profound impact on me that I didn't really get a chance to mentally understand. I understood it with my heart. Mentally understand until my son was born, and then I saw it. I don't know how that works. I'm not that smart, but I saw it. I saw it full circle.